Hi, welcome to Golden Years. This month my special guest is Director Tim Smith from LCADA in Medina County. What is LCADA? Come on back, as you need to know. We're going to hear some valuable information. Welcome back to Golden Years. This month I'm interviewing Tim Smith, Director of LCADA, and he is going to share with us what LCADA is all about. And a lot of you are grandparents out there, so you really need to pick up some tips in this show. Tim, thank you so much for joining me this month.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good. And share with me what is LCADA and what you're involved in and how great the information is in Medina County and all the help that is out there.
LCADA originally stood for Lorain County Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services. It was formed in 1981. It's a 501c3 nonprofit community organization. We treat drug and alcohol addiction.
Does it exist in Medina County?
Yes, yes it does. Yeah.
How bad is it in Medina County?
Well, Medina County, 2 years ago, the county approached us about bringing services here to Medina County. Let me take you back with the epidemic. The opiate epidemic is what we're in the middle of right now. And maybe not the middle, probably more like the beginning. Around 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there, Oxycontin was a medication prescribed for pain. It was being prescribed at very high rates. It was initially marketed as a non-addictive pain medication, and it turns out that's not true. Physicians were prescribing this medication under the assumption that it's a safe medication, that it's not like morphine or heroin or the other opiates that we know about. And patients began becoming addicted to the medication. It was overprescribed. Down along southern Ohio, Kentucky border particular, there were what they called pill mills, where there were clinics that were dispensing this medication in very, very high numbers. The government actually finally got involved, the governor's task force, and began cracking down on the pill mills, sending doctors to prison, and shutting down these pill mills. And when the pill mills shut down, the opiate epidemic took off. Now the medication that all these people had become addicted to was no longer available, and the cartels and the drug dealers and from China, whatnot, started bringing in the heroin and saying, a pill will cost you $80 street value. I can get you the same amount of heroin for $10. And people started doing that. And because the heroin now is so strong compared to the 1970s, let's say, it's 100 times stronger now than it ever was then. People could snort the medication or ingest it, or they didn't have to use the needle, which was always the stigma that usually kept people away from using heroin, was always I'm not going to use a needle.
Yeah.
So they could snort it or smoke it or some other way to use it, get the same effect, and not be sick. And then tolerance goes up over time. Now they need 2 bags, $20. Now they need 4 bags, $40. Now they need 10 bags, and it just keeps going up in the price because tolerance continues to rise. So as that happened, fentanyl, which is the new heroin, it's a synthetic form of heroin that's now appearing, Fentanyl's a very old medication that was used usually in a patch, a topical for a pain patch.
Okay.
That was used. They began synthetically making this fentanyl, and now that fentanyl is what we're seeing being sold instead of heroin, and now that the deaths are going up at the alarming rates, that's where LCADA kind of came in, right at the beginning of the fentanyl epidemic. Ohio lost more people last year to opiate overdose than died in the World Trade Center.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's not affecting any one single group. It's not
Or
affecting.
age.
No, it's not. It's all ages, mostly adult, but we are starting to see the adolescents starting to appear in the juvenile programs that are addicted to the fentanyl, pain pills, or some combination of those.
And sadly, are they getting it in their own home?
I guess that's the part where senior citizens need to be aware of this. I have family members, everybody has family members who do this. You go to the doctor for an injury or some kind of pain that's, it's temporary. They'll prescribe you some pain medication. You'll take 2 or 3 of them and then think, well, my pain's okay now. I can manage without this. And you take the other 20 pills and put them in the medicine chest saying, I might strain my back or my shoulder again, and I'll just save those the next time and I won't have to go to the doctor. I could just, use the medication.
Because it's there.
And what ends up happening is grandkids, kids, the grandkids' friends come over to the house. The first thing they do is they go to the medicine chest in the bathroom, they open it up and they look, oh, Percocet, oh look, Vicodin, oh look, oxycodone, OxyContin, some pain medication, and they'll empty the bottles out and put them in their pocket and away they go. Well, those pills to an adolescent are the beginning of a heroin problem. That's where it begins. So my message to everybody, not just senior citizens, is if you have unused pain medications or other medications that you don't currently need to use, dispose of them.
You don't want your grandchildren or even your children coming in and seeing in the medicine cabinet. It would be an easy steal, borrow.
And the same thing goes if you have a family member that has a substance use problem, and now we're estimating that 1 in 30 residents of Medina County is opiate dependent right now. So that's a lot of people.
1 in 30, is it? Okay.
At some degree, some level of opiate dependence. You don't know who has an opiate problem, who has an alcohol problem, who has a marijuana problem. People don't always talk about those things. Or if they're in recovery from it, you might never know. But that's a temptation for them also to relapse on the medications.
So with LCADA, do they offer recovery programs?
Yes, we do.
For someone when they realize, okay, I do have an issue, I want to address it.
Yeah, let me throw the number out. 330-952-1546 is a 24-hour hotline that people who have a substance use issue or they think they may have a substance use issue, whether it's opiates or alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, any kind, including gambling, so it doesn't actually have to be a substance, but an addiction issue.
Okay.
Somebody who's had a couple of OVIs and they're saying, I need to look at my drinking. There's something wrong with the way I'm drinking. The police are telling me so anyway. We have various levels of care ranging from individual counseling, outpatient group therapy, up to residential, including residential where women can take their preschool children with them to treatment while they stay in residential.
Oh, okay.
The men's programs that we have are, we don't have child care available with the men's programs, but we do have the housing as well as recovery housing. So a typical person that calls the hotline will have somebody on the phone say, well, what kind of insurance do you have? Or are you uninsured? If you're uninsured, we'll help you sign up for Medicaid or determine if you're eligible for a sliding scale, if you're working underinsured or some combination that we'll be able to help somehow. So that person will kind of clear them and say, here's your best bet. Or if they're in, like if they had something like maybe Kaiser Permanente or something, and they would say, well, you have to go in your network with that. That's not something that you could bring to us. Unless you wanted to pay out of pocket, and that would be at the person's choice at that point. But for the most part, 95% of the people, we have services for them. So then they'll schedule an assessment. You come into one of our offices, either at a walk-in site or by a scheduled appointment. We have a counselor do the assessment and determine what the person needs for their level of substance use disorder that they're experiencing. And that's where a determination, the clinician will say, well, you can do this, or this is the recommendation we're making for you to be most successful. And then the person determines whether that's something they want to do or not.
Are people still wearing the blinders, that they just think it's not going to happen in our county and it's not going to happen in my family?
I think substance use or addiction in general, it's always been a taboo that, you don't want that in your family. It's not a good thing. It's something to be ashamed of. There's a stigma is the word that we use to describe it. There's a stigma that goes with addiction. And denial is always part of the process, and I think that's not just with addiction, though. If somebody says you have cancer, the first response you're going to have is, I want a second opinion.
Oh, definitely.
I'm going to deny this until I can prove this. And addiction is no different than any other disease. As people say, no, it's not. I can do this on my own. It's not addiction. I can quit whenever I want. I just don't want to.
You're not ready for it.
Yeah, I'm not ready, or I'm busy. I have to work. I can't go to treatment. So there's always, some kind of obstacle that people need to overcome.
There's always an excuse because they don't think they're as bad as the newspaper puts it out to be.
Yeah.
That there's this big epidemic.
And a lot of it is the education that goes around understanding what addiction actually is. Addiction is not something that a person by themselves can overcome. It's not a matter of choice to say, well, I've made up my mind, I won't do this anymore. I'll stay away from those old friends, and then they won't drag me off into doing it again, and I'll be okay. But eventually the friend comes around, or the crisis comes around, or the stress. It's like trying to quit smoking. Everybody knows somebody who's tried to quit smoking.
Yeah. And it's the tease.
Smokers can blame a reason why they start smoking again very easily, and they start smoking again.
Right.
It's another kind of addiction that people do battle with. The heroin, though, the heroin is a much more powerful addiction. Of all the drugs out there, heroin, methamphetamine, crack cocaine, it's up there with those. And what opiate addicts particularly experience is the physical withdrawal. When they don't have the opiate in their system, the receptors in the brain are just screaming to say, where is it? And the body becomes sick. Vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, sweats, muscle aches, bone aches, just agitation, anxiety, and all of these things. It's like the worst flu somebody has ever experienced in their life, compounded with panic attack, all at the same time, and it doesn't stop. And that's when addicts will steal from family members. They'll go through medicine chests. They'll do anything they can do not to be sick.
So sad. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come right back, and we're going to hear more about LCADA.
We need a claim number?
When I started taking care of Mom, I didn't realize the challenge of playing so many roles. But above all, I'm still her daughter.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving. We're here to help.
You're watching The Bat.
Hi, welcome back to Golden Years, and I'm interviewing Tim Smith from LCADA in Medina County, and we are talking about some of the issues that are happening right around us. It could be in our house, it could be our next door neighbors, grandchildren, our children. So Tim is going to give us a little bit of information and awareness. Awareness is a really big key, and we really have to open our eyes that yes, it is happening in our county. Okay, so Tim, tell me, what do you guys prescribe medications to help these people? Or?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the solutions.
Okay.
Some of the things that we can do that traditional drug and alcohol treatment have not really been able to address. We also have physicians on our staff. They
Oh,
they
awesome.
are addictionologists, which is specifically doctors who understand addiction and medication around addiction. So if somebody comes in and they're having a problem with um, their um, their mental health, they're having a problem with their physical health, they're having a problem as a result of addiction, the withdrawal symptoms. Our doctor can prescribe medications to address those withdrawal symptoms and the anxiety and the lack and the inability to sleep and a lot of other issues that people have in early recovery that prevent them from getting clean and sober because they don't want to experience those unpleasant withdrawal symptoms. Our doctor can prescribe a variety of medications,
Okay.
Detox medications. We also have an electronic device called the Bridge, which clamps on the ear, and it's kind of like a TENS unit for pain, electronic pain unit, and it lasts 5.5 days. And when the withdrawal is over, people have say their withdrawal symptoms are a 9 out of 10 they're experiencing. They clamp on the device, it goes to a 1. And they don't need to use medication to go through withdrawal.
Wow.
They can do it as an outpatient. And then there's other medications we can prescribe. Vivitrol is one of the most amazing new medications. Vivitrol is not like methadone or Suboxone or Subutex or some of the other medications that people can become addicted to. This is a medication. You get a shot once a month, and it's basically like an inoculation. And if the addict then tries to use opiates while they're using this Vivitrol medication, they don't experience any euphoric effect. They don't experience anything. They just wasted their money buying drugs because it didn't do anything for them.
Detox, I've heard, can really, really be.
Yeah, we can basically avoid the withdrawal symptoms
Yeah.
or minimize them. It won't take them 100%, but it'll make it really, really manageable. So the other thing for the family members get dragged through this whole process with their loved one that's trying to find recovery. And they're watching them experience relapse and setbacks and struggling and all the issues that go through it and all the support that goes, the emotional support that it wears families out.
It's got to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, it wears them out, and they become frustrated, they become codependent, they become so engaged with this person in their recovery process that they lose themselves in the process.
Understandable.
So every Monday night, Robbie's Voice meets at our Medina office at 740 East Washington. Every Monday from 6 to 8, Robbie's Voice is not for addicts, it's for the families who love an addict.
Oh.
And it's an emotional support place where people family members who are going through this same experience, whether it's their child or their mother, their father, their brother, their sister, their husband, their wife, they all come together with Robbie's Voice and support each other through this process. And they can share information with each other about, hey, I did this and this worked, and I found this support for myself, and do you know about Running to Be Well? Do you know about the other things that are going on in the community?
That's awesome.
That
you
are,
could connect and
yeah, you can connect with
share
all these
ideas.
people.
Yeah.
And Robbie's Recovery Center just had their grand opening a couple weeks back.
How's that going?
They're staying busy. They're filling up fast with community activities and groups that are meeting there all around recovery. And it's not a treatment center. It's for people who have already found recovery. It's not treatment though. It's for people that can maintain their recovery. And it's a supportive
And
place.
stay clean.
So it's for families, it's for addicts, it's for alcoholics, but they're all sober. So, which is an upgrade from the seafood house because you don't have to worry about people coming out drinking Jim Beam.
That's true. That's true.
You know, they're
Getting
already
caught.
sober.
Yeah, really. So do you feel you're getting a lot of community support, county support?
Yes, yes we are. Yes, we are. It's amazing. When LCADA first came to town, we were trying to come into the business district, and there were people saying, "Oh, we don't want addicts brought to Medina." And once people became educated and aware of what recovery is about, because we're not about addiction, we're about recovery, people became receptive to it, and they said, "Oh, this is the answer. This is not the problem." The stigma of addiction has always been something of, like, "Oh yeah, we need jails, but not in my backyard. We need treatment centers, but not in my backyard."
You're right. You are so right. Yeah.
And once people are seeing that we're helping the community heal instead of harming, very receptive, very supportive. Job and Family Services through their Child Protective Services, the courts, probation, just general community businesses, and they're seeing the results that that LCADA Way is producing,
Good.
and
Good.
and they're happy about this.
And we're all in this together.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
Because like I said, you don't know if it's your grandchild, your neighbor, and when you pick up the obits, there's too many young kids.
Yeah,
Way
it's
too many.
absolutely alarming. Absolutely alarming.
So what kind of advice do you want to leave my viewers? Like, should they look for certain things, or in case they have an inkling that something might be shady?
You know, let me talk a little bit. How much time we got? About 30 seconds? A little
Go
more?
ahead,
All
we
right.
got time.
Enabling. Let me talk about enabling.
Good point.
Enabling is when, enabling by nature is a bad thing in addiction. Enabling means it's a loved one that's enabling the addict to continue being an addict. It's giving them money, it's bailing them out of jail, it's paying for their attorney, it's all the things, you know, buying them a new car when they wreck it. All of those things that enable them to keep being an addict is a bad thing. On the other hand, participating in something like Family Matters at Robbie's Voice, having the family enter recovery along with the addict, that's enabling the addict in a way that supports them for recovery while not condoning the addiction, supporting the recovery end of it. So if the person says, I might need help getting a ride to a meeting, that's good enabling. Help them get
That's
a ride to the meeting.
wonderful. Yes.
Help them look for a job. That's a good thing. You know, and all the things that families are meant to do. Families are meant to be a safe haven, supportive, and got each other's backs. You know, when everything else is going wrong, the family binds together and holds it together. That's what families are meant to do. And when you throw this addiction into it, families are thinking, I'm helping this person by giving them money and paying their rent and, you know, buying diapers for the baby and all the things. But where's their responsibility in this? Well, they're buying drugs with the money.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's not helping them. That's enabling.
Right, because if they haven't decided, okay, I need to get on the right road, you are enabling them to keep up with your bad habit.
So the you know, the risk that goes with the enabling is say the grandkid only comes around when they need money. If you stop giving them money because you know they're actively using drugs, the risk with that is they'll stop coming around completely because all they want is the money. When they do find recovery, they will come back around.
True.
And they'll want to be there for the right reason. But it's a hard thing for families to do, is to say, I'm not going to give you money anymore because I know you're going to buy drugs with it.
Yeah, because like you're closing the door on them.
Yeah. And you know, and the feelings that go with that are very difficult. And it's easy for me as a therapist to say, you know, if they're using, don't let them in the house. You know, slide a plate of food out on the back porch and let them eat, but don't let them in the house. It's easy to say to do that, but when it comes down to it's your family,
That's hard love.
you can't do it. You're gonna let them in.
Yeah.
So that's where going to Robbie's Voice, Nar-Anon, Al-Anon, other community supports help the family stay strong to be in a way where I'm going to help you get better, but I'm not going to help you die.
It's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. So that's about enabling.
And how are you funded?
We're funded through, treatment has always been funded through a whole network of fundings. The government policy is SAMHSA, which is the main policy that provides 60% of treatment services in the country. And then the other 40% come through insurance, grant,
Grants.
You know, variety of the Adams Board, the Addis Board, the courts. Like right now, we're in a partnership with McDack here in town, where they're helping us with our rent.
That's good.
And then CareSource, Medicaid, you know, the variety of Medicaid insurances are the major funder for our operations here. We also have a grant that we're on partners with Alternative Paths, the Medina Common Pleas, where people who are incarcerated can receive the Vivitrol shot while they're incarcerated. That blocks the opiates, prevents them from relapsing. When they get out of jail, they come directly to us. We provide their treatment services, continue their medication, address their mental health, do their therapy. and help
There's a
them
lot
help them maintain their recovery. And there's always been, as one comes, another one leaves, and the funding kind of ebbs and flows. So for right now, our major funding that we're receiving right now is through Medicaid
Okay. all
in
right.
Medina County, and then county by county it changes.
Oh, I'm sure. Probably the volume of people.
Yeah, and the available resources.
Mm-hmm.
But
So do you take donations?
yes, we will. Cash donations are going to be the easiest way. So either time, talent, or treasure. We're always looking for one of those three
time,
things.
Talent, or treasure. I like that.
Yeah, we're always looking for one of those things.
Okay, and you did have a walk in August, correct?
Yeah.
And how did that walk go?
Yeah, every year, August 31st is Opiate Overdose Awareness Day.
Okay.
We have events in Medina and in Wadsworth, and LCADA Way is not directly responsible for organizing that, but we're part of the recovery that's involved with it. So we always have a booth set up, and a candlelight vigil on the square was last year. This year was the year before. This year is Robbie's Recovery Center on the 31st, and then Medina is at the park, at the community park.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but at the community park in Wadsworth. The same place. If you were at one, you know where it is this year again.
And good support?
Yeah,
A lot of people
there's
come out
always,
for it?
always good support and entertainment, information being passed out, and then it really it's about the community display of, we're here as a community to support recovery, and we've had enough of the opiate deaths, and we don't want to see this continue. If there was, when 3 years ago, when opiate overdose death passed up car crashes as the major cause of fatalities of people that, it was just incredible, the community support that came around and said, we need to do something about this. This is not okay. There's counties in Ohio that have mobile refrigerated trailer units for the coroner's office to keep the bodies.
I've heard that.
That they can't fit them in the morgues.
I've heard that.
That's alarming when things like that become, in the mainstream news, that this is happening in our community. So Ohio and West Virginia have been going back and forth with the number of deaths. We beat them last year. I think they're going to beat us this year, but it's going to be narrow. Back and forth, back and forth. And right now, as far as the entire nation goes, Summit County, Akron in particular, is ground zero for the deaths per resident of anywhere in the country. Akron had more deaths last year than California.
That just blows my mind. But it's out there. It's out there, and it's not going to be going away anytime soon. So please, my viewers, make sure you're totally aware of what's happening in your family, in your medicine cabinet. Don't leave something out. That's a temptation.
Yeah.
And do you want to give them your website? So
Sure. It's kind of a string of alphabet. It's the LCADA Way.
Okay.
THELCADAWAY.org. O-R-G is our website. You can also contact, if you're looking for treatment services, 330-952-1546. And those are going to be the best routes. Or stop in our office over here in Medina or in Wadsworth. In Wadsworth, we're on the Summa Healthcare campus.
Okay.
We also have a partnership with Recovery Housing in the community, where addicts can receive their therapy with us and their housing. So if the families need a break, I know everybody's always saying, we need residential.
Yeah.
And it's really, they need a break from the person to get them out of our house for a minute.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the families do. They need recovery also. We have recovery housing available, and that program lasts 1 year, 2 years, as long as it takes. It will help them find work, get back in college, whatever it is, finish high school if they need to, and get out and be able to support themselves on their own.
It's hard to be a parent, let alone having all these roadblocks thrown into your daily life.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on Golden Years this month, Tim.
Okay. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for joining us, and I hope you picked up some tips this month.